All right, so I got another submission. If you want this me to go through your plan, there's a link in all my videos at the bottom for Planswell, where you can put in the information. It's like a 3 to 5 minute questionnaire. Send me the information. I can review it confidentially, and I'll post a video about it. So you get a free financial planner without having a whole whack of cash. But today, I got Jill and Jack. It's all confidential, obviously. Jill is 34 and Jack is age 39. And so what we're going to do is I haven't taken a real big look at this yet, but we'll go through it together and how we can tweak it and put Jill and Jack in the best financial situation we possibly can. Okay, so I'm going to try and do this quicker because some of the other ones I've done have been way too long. But here we got Jill and Jack. Jill is 34, Jack is 39. We have annual incomes of 75,000 and 80,000. Pretty good for you. 34, 39. It's a great income for you guys to have combined. Monthly savings is $200. They have currently 6,500 in RSP, 250 in a TFSA. Makes sense to have an RSP because of the income levels. I've talked about in other videos where if you don't make a high income, don't waste your time with RSPs because there's no big benefit. And then we keep going down the list here in terms of the other input. We have growth as a rate of return. Jack's a little bit riskier than Jill. Pension. So this is a big benefit is that there's a pension of 42,564 a year. Awesome. Okay. If you can find a job where you get paid a pension and it's what's called a defined benefit, meaning that they guarantee you a certain amount per month, it's a huge benefit because it's just like automatic savings for retirement that you're doing through your company. The other thing is that sometimes when you leave, you have the option to take that monthly income, or you can take what's called the commuted value. So you can actually take that chunk of money that they've put aside for you and bring it into your own hands so that you have more control over it. So that's a pretty, like based off of that amount per year, that's a pretty good pension. Then you'll get CPP on top of that. So I mean, in retirement, it's 42,000 plus another 10,000 each. And then old age security, which everybody gets, right? So again, CPP is based upon the amount you contribute. Old age security it's just based on being Canadian. So that's good. Go down to debt. So there is a cottage, it looks like, with a balance of 107. Line of credit balance 107. So one of the things to look at right here is that as interest rates go up, lines of credit usually are revolving, which means that their rate will increase as interest rates go up. So the amount of principal being paid down with that $2,000 will get less and less. But $2,000 a month on that is pretty good. We can look at how quickly I'll be paid off. House. So house value of 1.3 million is awesome for 39 and 34. Mortgage balance is 447,500. So tons of equity in here. But again, you can see that a lot of the monthly income is being eaten up by the mortgage payment. So lots going into the home, which you live in, but not a lot going into savings, unfortunately. So insurance. So no insurance. That's actually kind of a big deal. We'll go over that. Goals, cash events. Okay. So right off the top, the first thing is that this is pretty typical of BC, where you end up getting people that are house rich but cash poor. So if we look at, for example, the asset chart view, we'll go all the way to retirement here. That's strange. Okay, so all right, so I just had a little glitch there. So what I figured out is because there's the line of credit balance, which is considered a debt, and also the cottage balance, which is considered a debt. I believe that they're the same thing. So I'm going to zero that one out, and we'll preview that because it's saying that the debt that you're taking is not going to be covered by the $2,000 a month. So that just fixed it up here. So I'm assuming, Jill, that that's what you meant, was that you have on your line of credit 107,000 that you've used from your primary residence for the cottage. But it's, like I said, there wasn't enough payments going in to actually cover that debt because the cottage payment was zero. So if that's the case, which I'm assuming it is, we can see that we get to about, where we go, 60. The retirement age that you guys have is 65. So let's go to, well, that's when Jack's 65. So you can see there'll still be a little bit of mortgage balance, 112,136. You have 244,000 in RSP and 191 in a TFSA, which is great. Secondary RSP and secondary TFSA is 263 and 244. What's happening here is that once you have the line of credit paid off, it's going to start allocating that $2,000 into savings, which makes sense. And then if we go to where the money is actually held, so how you're going to survive is, all right. So this screen here, it gives us the different asset classes and how they're going to grow or drop. What we want to look at is retirement. So this, I guess it's kind of like an orangey color here. This is the debt. So you can see at when Jill's 64 and Jack's 69, all the debt's almost, well, pretty much gone, 65 and 70, which is great. You don't really want to go into retirement having debt because, as you can see what's happening now, interest rates increasing can affect how much money you think you're going to have. So who knows what's going to happen in the future, but that's good. I mean, the goal should be to have everything paid off by 65. You can see the house value is at 1.760. I think we want to tweak that just because of where the property is located. Well, whatever. We'll just leave it for now. They keep changing the program, but that's not a big deal. The house value doesn't really matter because it only matters if you sell it. But you can see that you have a investment total of 878,000, which is awesome. That's a nice chunk of money to have on top of the pension, right? Because you got to think for that pension to generate that 42,000 a year, there's probably going to be about another $500,000, $600,000 sitting in a pension account for you somewhere, because that money actually, is part of your salary or part of your payments. The other thing we want to tweak here is, obviously, I know that you put in that your growth, because you're actually the younger one, Jill, I would say you'd be maximum growth. And again, we'd want to be seeing an actual rate of return of closer to 7%. And retirement, it's different. Say it's about 5. Let's do a 7. 5 and 5. Preview that guy. Okay, so you can see just by making that little adjustment in terms of the rate of return you get while you're working versus rate of return you get while you're retired, that gives you about an extra 400,000. So you're at 1.2 million in investments. Your house is 1.6. We all know that's going to be probably much higher based off of where you live in BC. Now, the other thing that I wanted to look at here. Oh, Jill is retiring at 60. So that's why this takes kind of a dip here. So one thing you'll have to look at is if your pension doesn't start till you're 65, that where are you going to get the money before you get to things like old age security? You can take CPP and such earlier, but then you'll get less. So where a lot of value would come from a financial planner. And what I do a lot is figuring out what your taxes are going to be when you retire and working backwards to figure out if you should take your CPP at 60, right? Your OAS, you have to wait till 65. But that was good. And then the last thing here. So like this is really good. Like Jill and Jack are in a really good spot. They bought a property. They've bought it in a place where the value has just gone up like insanely high. It will give them an issue in the future where they're going to be more house rich, but also if they pay down that cottage debt, because the amount they're putting on it is more than the interest. So I hope I've read that correctly in terms of what they're doing, and then started allocating that $2,000 a month into RSPs and TFSAs, then they'll be much, much, much better off. They need to maximize their RSP contributions to make sure that they're bringing their income down into the lowest level possible as they can. Now, the other thing that we want to look at here that's missing is insurance. So, what's the way to say this? So I'm not insurance licensed. So anything I say is not advice, and anything that you take away from this is just a general idea. I have a person that I work with who is called a trust specialist, or an estate specialist, I mean. And so what they do is when I can see that a client might need insurance, I can refer them. So again, Jill, if you want to get a hold of me, then I can move forward with what I'm talking about here so that you're in a better situation. But how you want to think about insurance is if your spouse was to die, okay, so you lost that income coming from your spouse, how would you survive? So I would structure it in a way right now where if you took your spouse's income and times that by the amount of years you had left on your mortgage, that would be a pretty fair way to supplement that loss. Okay. So let's say there's 20 years less in the mortgage and Jack makes 80 grand. You do 80,000 times 20, get a policy for 1.6 million. Sounds like a lot. It's not, because you're so young. You could get a term 20, for 1.6 million, which means, unfortunately, Jack's passed away, but you've covered that cost. Also, you could just pay out the mortgage, right? And then you'd have that income as well. A lot of times with kids as well, you do it for like 20 years because, if the person wasn't there and you were missing that income, then you'd want to still be able to take care of your kids with that same amount of income for 20 years. So you could do term 20. Or different terms is like how long before they are no longer in existence. You got to be careful with things like mortgage insurance, because when you think about when you get insurance directly on your mortgage, every time you make a mortgage payment, your insurance is actually getting less valuable. So they don't really take a lot of qualification because it's really beneficial to them if you're paying a premium of say $100 a month, but then you die in the year where there's only 10 grand left on the mortgage. Awesome. You paid $100 a month that whole time. They only had to pay you 10 grand. Whereas with a term policy, you get paid that face value until the very end. So that's something that you guys should really look at, especially because you're young. There's other different types of insurance products that people can use. Some are pretty scammy. Some are better. But the main thing is get it set up while you're young, and the premiums are low. So hopefully that helps Jill and Jack. We made some changes here where they went from having about 800,000 in assets to over $1 million in terms of investable assets. If we go up to the summary here, what we're going to see is that you'll have about 69,960 or 5,825 a month. You're going to have enough money for sure with the pension amount and retiring at these dates. And your legacy, so your estate's about 2.160 million. Oh, here's the insurance recommendations that they're coming up with for you guys. So if you could use that other program, Mint, that I was talking about, reduce your expenses a bit so you can get some insurance. You might not need to have all of this stuff. And then here it's also saying that you could maybe benefit from combining the 107 with your main mortgage because, like I said, the line of credit does carry a higher interest rate and is variable versus a mortgage where you can get it closed and more fixed. Okay. So hopefully that's helpful. If you or somebody you know would benefit from having a free financial planning session, definitely use the link below to you go on Planswell. If you find this interesting or valuable, then please like and subscribe so that I keep doing these videos because it does take up some time to actually go through all the numbers and such. But Jill and Jack, you are doing amazing for your ages. And as long as you guys don't have any crazy life situations pop up, you're in a really good spot. Thanks for sending the submission. Appreciate it.